Hello everyone, and today has been a fascinating day for me. Not only have I seen things that have been said, stupid things, otherwise it wouldn't be on this channel, by two old-ass second-wave feminists, but I get to make a video about this because also they've had a backlash. Incredible, isn't it? Now, these two statements were made by Gloria Steinem and Madeleine Albright, and we all know who they are, so there's no need to introduce them. Madeleine Albright said that there's a special place in hell reserved for women who do not vote for Hilary Clinton, and in a similar vein, but albeit more childish and classical feminist maybe, Steinem said that young women are only voting for Bernie Sanders because that's where all the boys are at. Yeah. Two completely sexist statements made by two very well-known feminists. That can only mean one thing. A video. So sit back, relax, after the intro, whilst I get into the meat of this, and just pwn them hard.
Hello everyone, this is Champion Man. Ugh! Damn it, I can't see a thing in this.
So anyway, I think we ought to start with perhaps a shorter message, and that was from Steinem. This little statement here was on Bill Maher's show, otherwise known as Bull Maher to Fiffin and Griffiths, but we're not going to get into that, that's a stupid in-joke. So basically, what happened was, she went on Bill Maher's show when they were talking about women and feminism, and also about Islam too, and Bill Maher was trying to say to her that, you know, Sharia law, Islam, etc., it's a very difficult subject for the left to deal with because they won't accept that it is a problem and it is, you know, oppressing women, and feminists aren't seemingly doing anything about it. And of course she thinks that, yeah, feminists are doing shit, but hey, that's what the interview was. But before they get into that, they talk about women voting and about power, and that's all bullshit anyway. And then she says this.
There are people, among them Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who have said that the younger generation of women are very complacent about Roe versus Wade, that they weren't around before, and they don't have an appreciation. Do you think that's right?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, I find the young women very, very activist, and they're way, way more feminist and, you know, than we. I mean, we were like 12 crazy ladies in the beginning, you know, now it's the majority. But I do think that gratitude never radicalized anybody.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I did not say thank you for the vote. I got mad on the basis of what was happening to me, and I think that that's true of young women too. So they're mad as hell because they're graduating in debt, and they're going to earn $1 million less over their lifetime to pay it back. You know, they're mad about what's happening to them.
They really don't like Hillary, though. What do you think that's about? That Mom likes her, so I have to, you know.
First of all, I mean, she does have a huge gender gap and race gap. I mean,
Huge.
Yeah, women are more for her than men are, and she has.
But not younger women. They're more for Bernie.
It depends where you ask, but I do
America.
think that Bernie.
No, really. In America, I mean, it's just true.
I mean, first of all, women get more radical as we get older because we experience.
Women get more radical.
Yeah, it's the
That's
opposite. It's the opposite of men. I don't mean to overgeneralize. I'm sure that you're getting more radical, but men tend to get more conservative because they gain power as they age, and women get more radical because they lose power as they age.
Isn't that
So it's kind of not fair to measure most women by the standard of most men because they're going to get more activist as they grow older. And when you're young, you're thinking, you know, where are the boys? The boys are with Bernie, or, you know.
So, despite the fact that more young women are voting for Sanders because, you know, they probably believe that he's more of a feminist than Hillary Clinton is because she will yo-yo and U-turn over anything that her think tanks will tell her if it gets her votes. I mean, it's patently obvious. She's a liar. I don't need to necessarily get into it. We all know we've all seen the videos. We've seen her leapfrog on gay marriage, for an example. She's leapfrogging a lot of things. She's not an honest person. She only says things that will get her in power. And this is why young women are voting for Sanders, because they see someone who is actually saying something from the heart. You might not necessarily agree with it. You might think he's fucking nuts. But at the end of the day, it comes out as genuine. But at least when you can see Sanders, you know it comes from a long history of saying this shit. He's an actual progressive, while Hilary, well, she's just an authoritarian looking for votes, isn't she? And women see this, young women see this, and they vote for Sanders. But no, Steinem has to say that they're doing this because they want the male attention. They want the boys. They're doing this to get laid. This is in itself a sexist statement, because this implies that this is all that these women want. That they're so spoiled enough, almost, to do this. I mean, isn't it crazy? I mean, if a man said this, people would go insane, as Bill Maher says here.
Ooh. Now, if I said that...
No.
Yeah, they're for Bernie, because that's where the boys are. You'd
but it's
swat
not,
me. Come on.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay,
I wouldn't, because the boys are saying whether... No, I mean, hello?
Now, is it me, or does she know she done goofed? But that's besides the point. Sex-negative feminists like Steinem are going to say this shit anyway, because they find anything remotely sexual, or if they see anything or interpret anything as remotely sexual, they hate it, and they're going to call it out in the way that they usually do. And if she thinks there's a sexual reason why young women are going to vote for Sanders, she's going to say that, isn't she? And to be honest, Bill Maher was right. If a man had said that, he'd be called a sexist, an old pig, and he should be, sacked for what he said. Because, there would definitely be a letter writing campaign and a Twitter hate mob campaign against the bull. But hey, whatever. I mean, we don't live in that kind of society, do we? But strangely enough, there has been a backlash against Steinem, and I, for one, cannot believe it's actually happened. You see it in print media, and especially with this clip that Mundane Matt showed in his video, which is very good. I'll probably link it down in the description below. And I just can't believe that people are calling out a feminist. I don't know if it's because she's from a different generation, or because maybe people are waking up and realising, you know what, women can be sexist. Oh, that was sexist and we should call that out. I don't know. I don't know why she's got this attention, because usually people go, yeah, spot on, or they would ignore it, but people are calling her out, and it's amazing. So let's just see what this woman has to say.
Well, and you talk about the supporters, right? I think Bernie's supporters are much more personal against Hillary Clinton than he is. Every time it's come to a personal attack on her trustworthiness, on the email issue, things like that, he's sort of veered away from it. But we've talked to the supporters and these young women that you're talking about at these Bernie Sanders rallies, and it's this really interesting phenomenon where, there's a very strong, I think, feminist consciousness in young liberal women on college campuses. And I went to Bernie Sanders rally on a college campus here in New Hampshire yesterday, and these women all say, I'm a feminist, I'm concerned about rape culture, I share all these, liberal feminist views, and I think Bernie is the better feminist in the race. They look at Hillary. I had one young woman say to me, I think Hillary's only there because of her husband, and I want a strong, independent woman. And so there's a really sort of scorching, I think,
and not just
attitude toward Hillary.
They also feel that that all of the progress that has been made over these decades has left them in a position where they don't have to choose the woman just because she's the woman, and that they should have the freedom to make that choice.
Now, to be honest, people have been trying to make this argument for voting for Hillary, and a lot of people have done. When you see these interviews, like, why are you voting for Hillary? Because it's about time we have a woman, But I agree with a lot of what they have to say there. These women think that Bernie is the better feminist, because what he exemplifies in their heads is what the ideal feminist is, and what he says, really, is what they should be saying. I mean, obviously, the concepts they talk about, rape culture, etc., is bullshit, but that's besides the point. The point is, he is seen as more trustworthy, he is seen as more honest, he exemplifies their values, and they don't feel like they should have to vote for her because she's a woman. They feel like they should be able to make the choice that they want to make. I mean, they've always, since they've been able to vote, had that choice anyway. But if anything, they don't feel like they should be pressurised by older people, by more radical feminists like Steinem, like Albright, who will be getting to, hell, even younger ones. They don't feel like they should be pressured to do this. What's the point? Equality has been achieved. Gloria Steinem is only doing this because, well, let's just say it's 2 days towards a certain event. Besides, I find it very funny that all of a sudden, because of this said event that I'll get into, that 20 years ago she was endorsing Bernie for the re-election, I think it was, in 1996. Something was going on in 1996, and she endorsed him for something. It might have been the presidency, it might not have been, who knows. But in 1996, she endorsed him in this political run that he did. And I just think it's so funny that since he's now in a position where he's technically in opposition to her, she has to try and throw him under the bus. As usual, these types of people will kill their own. Now, this is an article written by the New York Times. There is a video in the article, but sadly I can't seem to download it to use it for this video because it shows what Albright actually says. But we shall read the article and we'll go through it and we'll dissect what Albright has to say about these pesky women who are going against the grain, almost. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? They're going against the grain, but they're just doing what these women fought for in the 60s and 70s, which was to allow women the freedom of choice to do what they wanted to do in society. Am I right? Let's read the article. Manchester, New Hampshire. Yes, this is some kind of weird child of Manchester. Please, just bear with me, alright? I'm sorry. There's loads of Manchesters, but it ain't the true Manchester. As Democrats consider Hilary Clinton's candidacy for the second time, women are wrestling with a difficult question: whether they have an obligation to get behind someone who's closer than anyone has ever been to becoming the first female president. And with her opponent, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, outdrawing her in support among young women, Mrs. Clinton's candidacy has turned into a generational clash. One that erupted this weekend when two feminist icons, Madeleine Albright and Gloria Steinem, called on young women who supported Mr. Sanders to essentially grow up and get with the programme. While introducing Mrs. Clinton at a rally in New Hampshire on Saturday, Miss Albright, 78, the first female Secretary of State, suggested about the importance of electing a woman to the country's highest office. In a dig at the revolution that Mr. Sanders, 74, often speaks of, she said the first female commander-in-chief would be a true revolution, and she scolded any woman who felt otherwise. So immediately we have a problem here. It seems that these people who are now the establishment are trying to dictate to the young what they can and cannot do. It sounds familiar. It's almost like something that they went through when they were young, rebellious teenagers. In that Bill Maher clip, Gloria Steinem talks about how women get more radical and men get more conservative as they get older. But if anything, this is the opposite. I think it's showing that both genders tend to be more conservative as they get older. Or at least when they become the establishment, they want to dictate to other people what they can and cannot do. She's quoted as saying, "We can tell our story of how we climbed the ladder, and a lot of you younger women think it's done." Miss Albright said of the broader fight for women's equality, "It's not done. There's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other." And this is going into some creepy Christian religious type shit here. If you do not do what God tells you, if you do not do what fellow Christians say to do, if you do not help the faith, you will be punished. You will go to hell. This is literally more proof that it's religion now, isn't it? But that's besides the point. The point is, if you do not do as we say, if you do not do what we have fought for you to do, if you do not listen to your betters, your leaders, you will be cast out of the sisterhood and you will be one of the misogynists, basically. That's what she's saying. You will be cast aside. You will be a pariah. You will not be a woman. Your woman card will be taken away. That is what she's saying. If you do not vote for Hillary Clinton, one of the most untrustworthy candidates the Democrats have ever had. You know, this is a woman who, as I said before, flip-flops from issue to issue. She's someone who's only interested in the votes, not the issues. Mrs. Clinton, 68, laughed, slowly clapped, and took a large sip of her beverage. Well, I'm not surprised. This is what she gets for support, and this is exactly what she wants. She wants people to be scared to vote for her. This is how politics is, people. In an attempt to explain Mrs. Clinton's struggles with female voters in New Hampshire, where the nation's first primary will be held Tuesday, Miss Albright said during an NBC interview on Saturday that women could be judgmental toward another and they occasionally forgot how hard someone like Mrs. Clinton had to work to get where she is. You see, I'm not going to say that she didn't work hard, but she had a lot of help. She's only there because her name is Clinton, not because she's Hillary Clinton with a message. Hillary does not have a message. She has a think tank that tells her exactly what to do, and she's using her political family's name to basically get into this position. Sanders has worked for 50 years to get to this position. That is hard work. I'm not questioning that she hasn't worked for it. She obviously has. But to say that it's entirely down to hard work is missing some key points. Women were expected to help power Mrs. Clinton to the Democratic nomination, but as she struggles to overcome a tough challenge from Mr. Sanders and trails him in New Hampshire polls, her support among them has been surprisingly shaky. Young women in particular have been drawn to the septuagenarian socialist from Vermont, and the dynamic has disappointed feminists who dreamed of Mrs. Clinton's election as a capstone to their long struggle for equality. Now you see, this is the feminist opinion on politics and representation in a nutshell. You have to have her as president because she's a woman. This is all they're saying. Just because she's a woman and we've worked hard to get where we are. We fought for our rights. We've gained equality, but it's just not enough. We need more equality. We need to vote women in. We need to basically vote with our vaginas. We need to vote for these people because they have vaginas, not because they have anything to say or anything that they might do to help better our country. We're doing this because we're in power and we need our puppet in power. That's basically what they're saying here. And it's horrible. This is not how politics should be. I mean, even Obama represents women better than Mrs. Clinton does. Come on. Miss Albright has used a version of the line "special place in hell for women who don't help other women" in other contexts, and it has been memorialised on Starbucks coffee cups. But in the heat of a presidential campaign, many women found it startling and offensive. I think you should find it startling and offensive in general, because this is basically saying, fuck the other 50% of the population, or 49, wherever you are. Fuck them. Help yourselves. Be selfish. Do not help the rest of humanity. Do not try and raise humanity from where we are now and take us to the stars, but just help yourselves. Divide society. That's what she's basically saying. This is what feminism is. A hate movement, and it's a divisive movement. In numerous remarks on social media over the weekend, female supporters of Mr. Sanders accused both women of undermining feminism. Undermining feminism? This is feminism. Get with the program, girls. Shame on Gloria Steinem and Madeleine Albright for implying that we as women should be voting for a candidate based solely on gender. Zoe Trimboli, a 23-year-old from Vermont who supports Mr. Sanders and describes herself as a feminist, wrote on Facebook, "I can tell you that shaming me and essentially calling me misinformed and stupid is not the way to win my vote." With backlash growing, Ms. Steinem issued a retraction on Sunday morning, and she did indeed. In the case of talk show Interruptus, I misspoke on the Bill Maher show recently and apologised for what's been misinterpreted as implying young women aren't serious in their politics, she said in the post on Facebook. Whether they gravitate to Bernie or Hilary, young women are activists and feminists in greater numbers than ever before. No, that was exactly what it was. It was not a case of Interruptus. You done goofed, you said something that was out of touch, you basically painted all Bernie Sanders supporters who are young and female as stupid and shallow, and that they basically are only doing this because they want male attention. You are a sexist. I'm pointing out the obvious here, but you're not just sexist to men, you're now sexist to younger women. And that can't be patently more obvious. And you can backpedal and try and justify what you said and try and change what you said all you want. But it was caught on camera. And you said that with no interruption. You said that with no case of nervousness or anything. You said that because that's what you believe. And because you have an agenda to push. That's why. To some, the apology rang hollow. Obviously they are desperate because Hillary's numbers are falling, so they are really pulling out the heavy artillery, said Camille Paglia, the author and self-described dissident feminist who supports Mr. Sanders and has been critical of Miss Steinem before. I don't even need to say anything there, people. But there we have it, people. These two statements basically sum up modern feminism for you. If you do not go by the status quo that we have created for you women, you will be pariahs. You are misogynist. Come on, that's what it is. It's virtue signalling to the other feminists out there. Support the sisterhood, okay? Support it. Otherwise, you're no better than the patriarchy. You are actually collaborators with the patriarchy, isn't it? Never mind that Hillary is the establishment. Never mind that Sanders has better standards and better policies in general. Vote for Hillary. Help the sisterhood. And this just shows that they are just completely out of touch, these two women. In fact, other women like them, it's not just because they're old, it's just because they're out of touch. They're ideological, and they've not moved on with the times. They don't think properly, so they have to support someone based on their gender, because they're bigots. They're bigots. They're out of touch bigots. They're basically your grandmother who's racist. But not racist, they're sexist. But at the end of the day, as Camille Paglia said, this is not necessarily because they're bigots, but because there's an agenda that needs to be pushed, and that is Hillary needs to get into the White House. She's the puppet, remember? She's not just backing all those corporatists, but she's also the feminist and social justice puppet, remember? They have a vested interest in her being president, and that's why they're out here saying this bullshit, and it's flying back in their face, because young women are not stupid. Thankfully, there is hope in the world. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you all later.